Hello, my name is Timothy Gager, and welcome to Virtual Thursdays, Dyer Literary Series. Different day, same old Dyer, but different Dyer, because today we have a wonderful poet, Suzanne Frischkorn. And let me tell you a little bit about Suzanne, or you can read it for yourself. There it is. She is the author of Fixed Star, JackLeg Press, which came out last September, as well as the books Girl on a Bridge and Lit Windowpane, both from Main Street Rag Press, and the chapbooks American Flamingo, Springtide, Red Paper Flower, Exhale, and the Tactile Sense. She is the recipient of the Women's Center Emerging Writers Fellowship for her book Lit Windowpane and the Aldrich Poetry Award for her chapbook Springtide, selected by Mary Oliver. An individual artist fellowship from the Connecticut Commission on Culture and Tourism, and a 2023 SWWIM Residency Award at the Betsy Hotel in South Beach. So I'm really excited to have Suzanne here because Suzanne has been to my Dyer series before as a live participant. So I'm really pleased to have her here tonight, and I'll turn it right on over to her.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's so great to see so many people out for poetry on a Thursday night. I'm going to be reading from Fixed Star, which just came out, as Tim said, in September. Fixed Star is a book that interrogates the cost of assimilation, and it's a journey of me trying to piece together a heritage that was erased. So I'm going to begin with a poem called What It Means to Be Cuban, hyphenated. It means I'm on a journey. Is the soil blood red or brick red? To witness miles of tobacco's green waves. Yes, I know. No yearning for the island or talk about a mango tree in the backyard. Carol City. What about burrs in the grass pricking my feet? Graffiti? My Cuban sitter built a tiled shrine to Mary, my only mother. I sat at her feet for days. What it means to be Cuban hyphenated? I don't know. My father's from Cuba. I'm American. He wanted me to learn one language really well. This next poem I'm going to read is a cento. It's called Palm Tree Cento. This is not something I've just learned. There was a sphere with dark patches like mountains, and I swear by this stolen image, you should listen to what they are hinting. Over there, evil and good actually have faces. How I would like to believe in tenderness, to know that light falls and fills, often without our knowing. I am not speaking of rose windows. Here, after a meager diet of horizon, is some scenery. All the leaves stuck out their tongues. In March of 2003, it's very dark in here. Normando Hernandez Gonzalez was among 75 Cuban journalists who were arrested in what became known as the Black Spring. This poem was found in interviews of his experiences. Black Spring. I held my breath under the bed, curled like a knot against the wall. They searched cars, searched everywhere, searched everything. A small incandescent bulb lit 24 hours a day. I always talked. If I had the desire to speak, I spoke. My only sunlight hours, Monday through Friday at noon. All 7 of us remained in solidarity. We began our hunger strike on the 13th of August. They took everything, including the mattress from the bed. All they left me was my underwear. The cell was completely boarded up, a small crack at the top of the door. If I stood on 5 books, I could look out into the prison. There was not an inch of me without a mosquito bite. Small red bumps on every part of my body. I never could sleep in that cell. To get through something like this, you think about your family. I believe that was my wife's saddest experience. She doesn't even like to speak of it, of when they let her see me. I didn't stand up when they did head counts. I wouldn't dress in prisoner's clothes. I never addressed any guard or official by rank. I was beaten with rubber sticks. In Cuba, even to breathe is illegal. To breathe. If you breathe the air and while taking it in, you don't praise the government, you are being unlawful. It's as if the sky and the earth are going to come together and crush you, and no one will notice it's happening. Leaving prison was like being born with experience. Everything I do is motivated by love. There are remnants that remain. I would like to forget, but unfortunately, I cannot forget. And this is how it is. This next poem I'm going to read is a personification of a legend called the Blue Lady of Waga Castle in Cienfuegos, Cuba. It's called La Dama Azul. This castle is nothing more than a sleepless sentinel. Restless, I know each wave of the Spanish Main and pace the fortress along its high walls. Only in the chapel do I discover solace. What is the nature of obsession? It is desire, desire for the return of your galleon, mi amor, mi corazón. I am almost invisible with longing. All that is left of me, a shadow of raw blue silk. This morning, a young officer was found with his broken sword beside him, a skull, and a blue cloak. The guards claim I drove him mad. I'm going to read this next poem because it was published when Mr. Gager was an editor at Printer's Devil Review. And it's called When My Granddaughter Asks. When my granddaughter asks about the woman in Cuba, I will say that each night she released a cascade of black from its trap of pins until it settled at the small of her back. And that is why she birthed 11 children. But we will be unable to explain her penchant for O's, Ophelia, Odelma, Oneida, or need for R's, Rogelio, Reinaldo, Raphael. I will not say that she abandoned my father and his siblings without wisdom, because on her way out, she left Oneida's hair scattered on the plank floor kitchen, a 5-finger lesson imprinted on my aunt's cheek. That will teach you to feed a man without a job. It's the first time I've ever read that one out. How am I doing on time, Tim?
Oh, a couple more.
Okay. I think I'll finish with this one, Jasper. Oleander divides the highway like a rill. Its blossoms spill their wan scent. We pass sunflower fields scorched by government light, and power line poles wearing large brown hats. No, not hats, stork nests. Listen to wind cut by wing. The way to Cordoba, mi hijo, is to follow the silver leaf of an olive tree as it drifts and loops along arid soil. First go to the sea, its bed of soft stones and alchemy for sorrow, its salt like baptism. Here, sunshine sends you to bed. Pink oleander whisper the formula for everlasting life, and hope is forever caught in the almond tree. Jasper's opaque hues stain your skin. It's the myth you carry home.
Thank you so much. And here is the book, Fixed Star. Folks that want to ask Suzanne questions, put them in the chat and I will get to them. If you're watching the stream on various streaming services, if you put a question on that chat, I will not see it. So feel free to log in. So anyway, writing a Fixed Star, you wrote a lot, writing about your heritage. Now, did you find that easy or was that an extra challenge?
It was difficult because, as I mentioned in the when I was talking about it, my when I was a child, we were not to speak of Cuba because it upset my father too much. So in many ways, it was erased, and I didn't know very much about it. All those kind of stories you hear about where you came from, your family, your ancestors, I didn't have that. All those things center a child. So I had to do a lot of research. I had to read a lot about the history of Cuba and the history of the Cubans in the United States and Cuba during the revolution. So it was a combination of myths from my own childhood and myths, about Cuba. So, yeah.
Did you find that you understood your father better after you researched or wrote the book?
I did. I actually am quite proud of him. And I'm sad for him as well. But I'm very impressed with the person that he was before he came here and after he came here. He was impressive.
Well, I mean, based on that whole duality about not being able to really celebrate your heritage, I mean, there's a lot of grief and loss involved there, but somehow the book does not feel heavy in grief and loss. Why do you think that is?
Not really sure. I think I fell in love with so many. It was such a wonderful discovery to discover musicians and poets, in translation, and to learn about the fauna and travel. And it was just I think such a wonderful discovery, knowing that in the end, while I'd been searching for my people who I belonged to and everything else, I learned that my people had been here all along and they were other writers. That was my tribe. Those are the people that I belong to.
Did you find or ever feel like you had two identities, like almost as if you were searching for a parent, the fact that
Yes.
you're disconnected from Cuba?
I absolutely felt that way. I felt a little bit. What?
I was expecting a longer answer. I'm like, okay, let's roll.
Sorry. I definitely felt like an outsider in both cultures as well. So I always felt incomplete, So it was like, it was very cathartic in some ways to take that journey and write about it and come out the other side whole.
Barbara wants to know, how much time have you spent in Cuba?
Not a single day, not an hour, not a minute, sadly.
Would you ever plan to go or?
I had wanted to go. There was that brief window where you could go because and then they shut it again. I go back and forth. Sometimes I want to go, but then I also know that the Cuba that, is the myth is gone. it's not what I think it is, so I'm not sure, and I don't have any feeling.
So
Huh?
what do you think will change? Like, I know that you probably have this image of old school Cuba with Volkswagen Beetles driving around. If you actually went to Cuba, what do you think that you would see that would shock you?
I think what would shock me is the poverty. If you leave the resort area like you do on any island, when you go on an island, um, it's shocking some of the things I learned, that the shortages are like in toilet paper. And I'm shocked that even after Castro has since died, and the other Castro died, Raul, I'm shocked that they're sticking with this revolution that's not working. And it's hurting people. It hurts people.
All right. Now, the book itself in Fixed Star, you wrote a lot in sonnet form. So what is it about the sonnet that attracts you in terms of the subject matter in Fixed Star?
I love sonnets. It's the first received form I ever fell in love with. I love everything about it. I love that it's only 14 lines. I love the turn. I love the volta, I love how it contains energy. It helped me go from, I had wanted to write longer poems, but I had been writing very small, spare, tight lyrics. So it helped me doing their coronas or crowns. So using that form, the sonnet, to write a long poem, like one of the crowns in there is 12 poems long. The other one is 7 or 8. It helped me to write a longer poem, but still, stay in my wheelhouse.
Now, when a poet laureate of the United States says that they were in awe of this book, how did you feel when Diane Seuss gave you those accolades?
I almost fainted when I saw that book. I'm not gonna lie. I almost fainted. I couldn't believe it.
And in there, she compared you to Platt, Keats, John Cage, and Shakespeare. Out of those 4, who do you compare yourself the most to? As somebody a game show host, Suzanne, out of those 4 poets, who do you compare yourself to?
Well, in that blurb, she's talking about the voices that are echoing and accompanying me on the journey. So she's not really comparing me to them. And I don't know who I would, who I write like. I've always thought about that, because I know they ask you those things on like questionnaires sometimes for your books. And I'm not really sure, to be honest, because I have such a wide and vast appreciation for all types of poetry. I'm not just of one school. So I don't know. Sorry.
Now, your book journey, you went from chapbooks to full length, and that's not always the case. Do you recommend going in that direction for somebody that's just looking to start out publishing their work?
I love the chapbook form, and I kept writing them until my friend finally was like, enough with the chapbooks, write a book, and then I used to think I could only write chapbooks because I liked the short form, and then I wrote Lit Windowpane. And after I wrote Lit Windowpane, I started thinking in a more book-like way. And now I would like to write another chapbook, and I'm not sure if I will.
Lee would like to know, do your sonnets usually rhyme?
They have a lot of internal rhyme, but they, other than being 14 lines and having a volta, they're not like, they're not traditional sonnets in that way.
And what about in your bio, one of your chapbooks was selected by Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver is very, very well known, especially with what she writes about. In that particular chapbook, what do you think appealed to Mary Oliver?
She wrote the most beautiful intro to that. And one of the things, I think, it was the natural world. That was very much about the natural world, springtide. And is that me echoing? I think so. The thing she said that she liked the intimacy of the way I spoke. She felt like the poems that were in that chapbook were necessary to write and not just fillers or, prompt poems or anything like that. I was kind of floored when that happened. So I couldn't believe it.
Did you ever get to meet Mary Oliver?
I did not. She was known for not showing up at like awards and stuff after picking people, and she didn't like coming out, so she wasn't I was lucky that I had a friend who warned me in advance that was going to happen, so I wasn't disappointed. I was just grateful.
So have you had any rock star moments when you've met a poet that is just totally like, just by meeting them, you were wowed?
When I hadn't met Diane Seuss until she read with me, and Melissa stuttered for a JackLeg Press reading because she blurbed both our books. I was a mess, and I was very starstruck by her. She is someone that I'm a big stan, and I act like a total fool for her, but I don't care because but I feel like that's she's like my star.
For Girl on a Bridge, you did 2 short films with the poems behind them, and also you did one for Lit Windowpane. Why'd you stop making films? Some of these are 8 years old, 12 years old. I thought the films were great.
Oh, thank you. They were little book trailers. They were, remember, back then everybody was making book trailers, and
so important to have a book trailer. Yeah.
Everybody was making book, and you had like, I had a Mac, so I was able to do it on my Mac movie thing. And I had thought about making one for Fixed Star, but I just never got around to it. They're pretty time consuming, even those little to get it all together. And I saw people having like directors now and serious film crews. I was like, I'm not doing that, paying people. I was like, no, I don't think so.
Or people just go live on TikTok or Instagram and they don't produce anything. They just read a poem and then they're done.
Right. Every few years, changes. It all changes.
So you've given advice to other writers and poets that says, don't be afraid to write crap. So tell me a little bit about, also tell me a little bit about some of the crap that you write and what becomes of it.
Well, don't be afraid to write crap is a quote by someone else, but it's one of my favorite pieces of advice, because one of the things that stops me from writing is when I'm facing the blank page and I have this perfectionist streak that, immediately freezes me up. So if you're not scared to write crap, you just write anything down and everything's okay, right? It's fine. Nothing happens, right? So now with that practice in mind, I have lots of crap in my files and I'm happy with it. It makes me happy because it means that I showed up, whether something came of it or not. I showed up that day. And now look at all these failed poems or failed pieces of writing that I have. Sometimes like a snip of it, or if I go back through, especially if I'm feeling dry again or fallow, I'll go through some of the old drafts and maybe save something or not, or better yet, start something new, So yeah, it makes me feel good to know that I have all that stuff proving that I showed up.
And do you ever go back and through those files and be like, wow, this is pretty good. I was not expecting this, or remember it?
I'm like, did I write this? I wrote this? I don't remember writing this. This isn't bad. I'm gonna send this out. Yeah.
And as a perfectionist, when you have a finish, you ever scared when you finish a book and you're kind of like, well, I could have done this, I could have twisted this, or once you finish a book, are you totally satisfied and not worry about it?
No, I'm always insecure about the books. I'm always feeling I feel like we're the worst judges of our own work sometimes, and I'm really difficult. I'm a terrible critic of myself. So I'm never entirely thrilled with anything, you know? And I'm always kind of nervous. I'm like, I hope people like it. What if they don't like it? But
Well, I want to say that I really like Fixed Star here, and it's a wonderful, wonderful book. It's I think every poem in here is great, and I recommend people picking it up. And also, if people would like to pick up some of the other books that we talked about, here they are. I really liked Girl on a Bridge.
that one's still in print. Yeah.
It's kind of sad when they stop being in print. You don't quite know what to
Yeah,
do.
Lit Windowpane literally just went out of print last year. And I didn't even get a heads up. I wish I would have, you know, gotten them all, whatever was left.
Well, if you have the rights revert to you, can you just take the files and just put it out yourself at this point, or is it just
I gotta look
in
into
limbo?
that. I'm like, I gotta dig up that contract and see what I actually signed, right?
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for being with us. That was a wonderful reading and a great chat. And good luck with your book. I hope you sell 1 million copies.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great to see you again, Tim. And thanks so much for everyone, asking questions and showing up and being such an awesome audience. I appreciate it.
And folks that are watching on the stream on Facebook would like to be involved in the upcoming open mic, just use the link and pop on in. I'll be glad to let you in. And also, if not, thank you for showing up. And next week, stop in for Kim Andonesio. So thanks very much, y'all.